We continue learning workbook page 191 with a couple of problems. The first problem asks us to apply the square root property, and we're given three equations. Let's start with the first one. 4x plus 9 in parentheses squared equals 5. Now, there's phrasing that I would like to be consistent when I'm describing the square root property. On the left, drop the square and any parentheses. On the right, put plus or minus square root. It is a very easy property to use. So let's apply it now. On the left, drop the square and any parentheses. So we get 4x plus 9. On the right, put plus or minus and square root. And whatever was on the right goes underneath that square root. Final answer. All right, next equation. Drop the square and any parentheses. And on the right, put plus or minus square root. Final answer. Third one. Drop the square in any parentheses. And on the right, put plus or minus square root. Whatever was on the right goes under the square root, whether it's positive, 0, or negative. The most common question I get from students about this skill is that it? Yep, that's it. Using this skill will be part of a larger solution to a bigger problem as we move throughout this section. But for now, yep, that's it. All right, so let's look at such a problem where having this skill allows us to do something useful. Use the square root property to solve the equation. And we have x plus 8 in parentheses squared plus 75 equals 0. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand about the square root property is before you can use it, your equation has to be in the correct form. You have to have an algebraic expression, which is being squared on the left-hand side, and you have to have a number on the right-hand side. No extra pieces. Something squared equals something. So, does this equation fit that criteria? The answer is no, because what we have is something squared plus something equals something. So we have to take this and make it look like this as the first step. So subtract 75 on both sides. Then we have x plus 8 in parentheses squared equals negative 75. Now it's in the correct format. Now apply the square root property. Drop the square in any parentheses. So x plus 8 equals, and on the other side put plus or minus square root. So we have plus or minus square root of negative 75. Now we're going to solve for x. We're also going to simplify the radical. You can do it in either order. I think we'll go ahead and simplify the radical first. We learned in chapter 7 that when you have a negative under a square root, that means I will be part of your answer. The square root of negative 75 is equal to I times the square root of positive 75. And 75 is a radical that can be reduced. 75 can be made up of, let's see here, 25 times 3. So I'll write this as 3 times 25. And then 25 is 5 times 5. So what we can see here is that we're going to have a perfect group of 2 inside and an imperfect factor of 3. So here's what we're going to get here. X plus 8 equals plus or minus I square root of 3 times 5 times 5. Each group sends one representative out to multiply. So we get x plus 8 equals plus or minus 5i square root of 3. All right, and then the last thing we have to do is to move this plus 8 to the other side where it becomes subtract. So we have x equals negative 8 plus or minus 5i square root of 3. Now, if you're new to using the plus or minus symbol, here's some advice for you. The plus or minus symbol should be treated just like a plus or just like a minus, because it's literally both symbols at the same time. A plus or minus is indicative of two different numbers. The first number is negative 8 plus 5i root 3, and the second number is negative 8 minus 5i root 3. You could write them that way, separated by a comma if you wanted. Negative 8 plus 5I root 3 is our first solution to this equation. And negative 8 minus 5I root 3 is the second solution to this equation. One more thing about the plus or minus symbol before we call this done. Typically, we put the term with a radical after the plus or minus symbol and the term with no radical before the plus or minus symbol. Why do we do this? So that our answers look consistent with the kind of answers we will get later in this same chapter when we use and learn the quadratic formula.